Happy Thursday, everyone, and welcome to this Thursday's Let's Talk Moms Conversations. This is where we are dishing on all the candid details about having and being a co-parenting or just a single mom. Hi, Meliea. Hi, how are you? Hi, Well Play. How are you guys? Thank you for joining us. If you guys are coming in, you were waiting for us. I love it. I love it. So as tradition dictates, listen, you guys got me doing something new. I just go to the supermarket and I look at what I think I might like, okay? So today, it is this strawberry sparkletini, and I got it because I don't really like wine, Meliea. I am not a wine drinker.
I'm not either.
Or an alcohol drinker at that, but, it's Thursday.
It's Thursday.
It's Thursday, so I'm going to drink on this.
I do drink.
I'm going to drink on it. Yes. So, and it's actually pretty good. This is what I say. I say, you might as well just drink some Kool-Aid or something if you got to dilute the liquor, right? But hey, what do I know? So it is all good. And I'm drinking on my strawberry sparkletini that tastes just like soda.
Look at my cup.
It's pretty. It says it's a beautiful, what does the bottom say?
Day to catch babies.
Listen, let me tell you that. I'm glad you said you started with that. So Meliea is who helped deliver my youngest baby in 2020, not too long ago. And I was so excited to have her as my midwife, one of my midwives. And they made the experience, it was a drive-by delivery, first of all. But they made my drive-by delivery amazing. And I'm glad that I had a midwife because they had the foresight to get the water ready while we were driving there, speeding there. So thank you guys for having the foresight, and thank you so much for all the work that you have done with me in support of me at the Courageous Moms Retreat. I was listening to it, and I'm like, I got some questions about some of this stuff. I got some follow-up questions.
Oh, good.
So let's get right to it. So do you mind introducing yourself? We've been talking. Just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us how you became a mama.
Oh, yeah. So I'm Meliea, and I am a chameleon. I do a lot of things. So I'm a birth assistant, midwife, birth worker in my community. I work at the birth center, one of our only birth centers here in North Carolina.
And they are amazing, every single one of them.
Yeah.
So if you want to have a natural water birth, check Meliea out.
Yeah, they're amazing. So I work there. I do a little bit of life coaching. I talk about cyclical living, which is, living, looking at the cycles in nature and cycling with nature, so that we get plenty of rest times and active times, productive time and downtime, that type of thing. So I do a lot of that, and I've actually got, my book is getting ready to come out on the cyclical living aspect of that. I was hoping I would have my sample copy here tonight so I could hold it up, but it's not here yet.
Okay.
But I'm excited about that. It's kind of a compilation of my last 3 or 4 years of work in coaching, mainly women. I became a mom when I was 18.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so my first was born when I was 18. So she's now 31, and then I have one that just turned 24, and then I have a 14-year-old because I'm insane.
You started all the way over like myself.
I have 3 only children.
Oh boy, you know what I'm saying? So how old was your youngest how old was your middle child when your youngest was born?
10.
Same here. Like, what are we thinking, Meliea? What were we thinking?
I don't know.
It's crazy. So you've been doing a lot of work with women on just cyclical living. And what exactly is cyclical living? I don't think I've ever heard that term before.
So when we look at nature, if we look at like the seasons, if we look at different cycles in nature, the water cycle and different things like that, there are active parts of each cycle and there are more passive parts of each cycle where things are, not happening. There's not as much physical things happening, but there's things like brewing, right? And so we in our society tend to trend toward 24/7 productivity, right? Like, gotta always be on. You can't have a bad day, can't have a rough week, can't have a quiet moment to yourself. You gotta earn it. We tend to do that, and we are not designed that way. Our adrenal, you hear big buzz phrases like adrenal fatigue and things like that. And adrenal fatigue is a result of just being on the go all the time. And when I say on the go all the time, I don't just mean in your body, I mean here too. Yeah. So we're not built to be like that. So what I did was I decided to just kind of align with the phases of the moon, because the moon it's a 29.5-day cycle. The new moon is dark. We don't see that one, but it's like the beginning of a new cycle. We all need like a start point and a completion point, right? So the new moon is my start point. That first part of the cycle is a really active part, or the first part, the new moon part of the cycle is kind of like listening. It's a kind of a low energy part. Then as the moon starts to get more toward full, like it is tonight, it's almost full. That's a more, bright time. That's a more active time. There's more things happening. Then after the full moon, like the moon begins to wane again, as we need to do. So there's really like 2 weeks in the cycle of where the moon is waning and not in its fullness, and then there's 2 weeks where it's working toward or coming off of fullness. So if we kind of design our lives that way, then we have more of, I don't like to use the word balance, but we have more of our natural blueprint of times of activity and times of rest and reflection and evaluation.
I love that. I think I remember you giving another example of something very similar, and it was when women have birth, when women are birthing, and there are like different parts of the birthing experience. Like there's active labor, there's early labor. I don't know all the parts of it. Remember all the parts of it, but based on what you're supposed to be doing in that season or in that part of labor determines what kind of effort you put forth. If it's active rest, then you're resting to prepare for what you're about to do for another contraction. So so cyclical living is knowing what stage or what phase you're in, which dictates how you should be, I guess, possessing your body.
Right. I mean, before we had clocks and calendars and all those things, that's what people did. It didn't take long for people to figure out there was some consistency to the cycle. I mean, we know what the moon phase is going to be 70 years from now at 4 p.m. Like we know where it will be because it's that consistent. So it's not surprising that we find in some of the, anthropological things that and archaeology and whatever, I don't know which one of those it is, but when we find evidence that people used the moon to time things. It's not that, to me, over time, it's not that the moon necessarily like gives us a certain energy, but the moon gives us a blueprint that we can follow. So it's like an outline. So I can know that, okay, I'm coming into a more relaxed phase now. And like you said, labor is another cycle, right? It begins a cycle to birth and postpartum. Early labor and postpartum are your times when you're not supposed to be doing a whole lot. You're supposed to be resting. You're supposed to be replenishing, renewing, healing, all of that. And then the active labor, the pushing, all of that, that's the times when you're active and doing things. So we see so many cycles
That's so good. Those are good comparisons to kind of guide your life through. I love that. So talk to me. That is very interesting. So I want to hear about trusting yourself. I said she is the girl to talk about trusting yourself. What are some ways that we would know if we really struggle with trusting ourselves? Like, how do we know?
Yeah, so it's funny because I was bringing my earbuds in here trying to decide if I was going to use them or not because they're kind of cheap and I don't really trust them. But the reason I have these cheaper earbuds is because I don't trust myself not to lose them. So, not trusting myself sometimes can be very practical, right? Because I have a history of leaving things places and that type of thing, right? But there's also, we are living now in an information age where we have access to, the internet, we have access to articles, we have access to groups, we have access to large communities of people on social media that we don't know. They're all over the world. And what that's done is we've started crowdsourcing a lot of our information.
So crowdsourcing is when you go to all of those sources for information.
Yeah, what should I do? This is what's happening. What should I do? What do you do? Let's take a poll. I want to do what everybody else is doing. And that's a social dynamic. Marketing.
I definitely do that. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I do it all the time.
That's based on that dynamic. Products and services market to us so that because we don't want to feel left out. We want to do what everybody else is doing, right? That's why people line up for the new iPhone. So it's effective. But
we want to be like others. We want to be in the norm. We don't want to be outside the norm.
Right.
Because something is wrong with us if we're outside the norm, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah, isn't it crazy that we live in a society where the norm is kind of normalized? Like even with baby, like my daughter gets these 18-month checkups and it's like, okay, is she on average? Is she normal? So we live in a society that is always comparison based. So that's really, I love that point that you're bringing out.
Yeah. And so we look at, so I see this a lot in motherhood, right? Like people comparing themselves to other people. I should be doing more. My house should be cleaner. I should be going to the park more with my kids because that's what all those people do. And that's what these people are saying. I should be feeding my kids this because this group of people says they don't feed their kids this and their kids are better behaved. Yeah. All these things, and it's all coming at us. And if we're not rooted in our own intuition and self-trust, then we make decisions based on our influence rather than our intuition.
Based on the crowd.
Yeah. And so when we make decisions that way, it's not peaceful for us. It's not, it doesn't turn out well because we're still working off of either fear or lack of trust or lack of information or whatever it is. So we don't feel grounded. We don't feel rooted. So there's a lot of anxiety that comes around that, right? When we don't feel really solid about what we're doing. So basically we have a lot of, especially since the pandemic began, we have a lot of anxious parents running around trying to figure out like what are we doing? And we, again, in our society have trouble sitting with the unknown.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just don't know. And that's when you have to go to your intuition, right?
Or we can continue going and crowdsourcing. Right. And I think a lot of times when we, like you said, we have a hard time sitting with that anxiety and because we don't trust ourselves, we're like, okay, I bet you this person, like we kind of have this person in our mind that has the best answers, that makes great decisions. And we like, okay, well, if they say that I should do it, then I'm going to follow their lead. But we could run into some problems with that, couldn't we?
Yeah, usher
with
in
crowdsourcing and going to other people. Yeah, like we find other gurus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when I talk to people about coming back to your intuition and your own self-trust, what I'm talking about is learning to hear and see what your intuition looks like in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that means intuition is like a muscle. You have to use it. It gets stronger and stronger. Your intuition it's not like fairy dust that falls on us. There's no such thing as mother's intuition. There's just intuition.
So what would you describe as intuition? Like, what is intuition?
So I'll give you a silly example that happened this morning.
Okay.
So because I'm insane, I have these 2 new kittens that we adopted about 7 months ago. And they're crazy. Kittens are like toddlers. They do all kinds of mischief and stuff. So I usually shut my bedroom door before I leave because they can get into some trouble in there. Mm-hmm. And so this morning I could not find one of them. And I was like, where is he? I need to shut the door, but I don't want to shut it if he's in there. And I looked around, I didn't see him, but something told me he was in there. And my intuition was saying, just don't shut the door. But then I shut the door, and guess what? He was in there. So, he got into mischief. But that's a silly example. But, when you're talking more serious examples, for instance, like right now, and I know this is a controversial topic, but right now, if we just talk about the vaccine topic with COVID vaccines and stuff, what you have is people who are like, I'm either this or I'm this. And I ascribe to this camp or to this camp. And really what you need to do is get with yourself. Is this what's for me? Is this right for me? Yeah. What does it, when I say to myself, I'm going to do this or anything about your health. When I say to myself, I'm going to have a water birth, what does that feel like in your body? What does it feel like in your body? Yeah.
Yes.
So, at some point you made that decision, right? Like you were like, this feels right. But sometimes people make a decision to go, like, have their baby in a hospital out of just fear. Mm-hmm. And they don't really sit with, like, what do I really want? Now, some people, that is what feels comfortable to them, to be there. They feel like that's what my intuition is telling me that is I need to do. But some people just do, like, either based on their fear, they react to fear, or they do what other people are doing. Everybody else did it. This is what I should do too. And then, you can end up making decisions about your health, like about your life, about your relationships that are based on what somebody else did that is probably not going to work for you like it worked for them.
Yeah.
So
one of the things that you said is what it feels like in your body. And a lot of times I find that we're very much disconnected from our body. So we don't really get in touch with how things feel in our body. So can you talk to how do you reconnect? I spend time teaching people how to reconnect to their body. Mm-hmm. So talk to that person that is very much disconnected. It feels like they should be disconnected for many, many reasons. How do you know if you're disconnected, and what do you do to get reconnected just to your body? And why is that important?
So funny, when I know somebody is really disconnected from their body, they'll say things to me like, I can't sit still. I have to always be doing something. I can't rest if the kitchen is a mess. Or they'll say, like, I can't get off the couch. I can't get motivated to do these things. So we're kind of separated from that physical space that we occupy in the world. Mm-hmm. So coming back into that space looks like, first of all, paying attention to the signals that our body sends us. We kind of like, oh, my back is hurting, or I have heartburn, or whatever. And we just sort of think of it as a problem to be solved. But what if it's a message? Can you sit with it and figure out what is happening in your body? And it just takes time to sit and realize. So what I started doing was I started sitting and saying things out loud that I knew I was rooted in, like, truth. I knew this is what I want. This is what I should be doing. And then I would say things that I wasn't sure about. And I would pay attention to what was happening in my body when I said those things. My neck sometimes would get tight. My shoulders would rise, right? And then I would say things that I knew I'm not supposed to do, like just I would make a statement like, I'm going to do such and such, and know that I should not do that. I'm not going to do that. I don't even believe in that. And you feel the reaction in your body. Mm-hmm. And so over time, what I've been able to do is, when I'm not able to decide about something, when I'm on the fence, I can just kind of sit quietly with myself and say out loud all the options, and then pay attention to how each option feels in my body. Now, it's taken me time to get here. It doesn't always happen for the first week you try it, that you make every major decision in your life now. But you have to learn how your body speaks to you. Mm-hmm. So our bodies are not a vessel. They're us.
Yeah. Oh, go into that. I've always said that our body's a vessel.
Yeah, no, it's not just carrying us around. Our soul, infuses our cells. Mm-hmm. We know this. We know that, you've got parts of all your kids in your blood. We are infused. So nothing happens to our soul that doesn't express in our body. And nothing happens in our body that doesn't speak to our soul.
Absolutely.
So
that's so good.
Your body is more of a person than a vessel.
That's good.
So
good.
You're going to
our bodies are a part of us. We're body, soul, spirit. I know that you said that the spirit part is debatable. My belief is a little bit different, but we are our self is made up of all those different parts of us. That's so good.
But they're all meshed together in one thing. You can't really separate them. You can't just work on your spiritual life and not affect your body.
Yeah.
You can't just work on your body without it affecting your mind.
Yeah.
They all work in tandem. So it's just all one thing. So this was not my original idea. It was Jamie Lee Finch's, but she taught me to refer to my body as a person, like a she, like her, talking about her. Or you give your body whatever pronouns you want, but to not talk about it as an object, something outside of you.
Yeah.
And that has made a difference in how I see my body.
Yeah. I do some work with women that have body image issues, and we kind of have to work through seeing our bodies as objects versus seeing our bodies as a part of all of who we are, just a component of who we are. So that's really important. So you're saying that one of the first steps to trusting yourself is to develop intuition. And that first step of developing intuition is getting reconnected to your body so that you can identify when things feel good in your body or to your body, when it makes sense in your body and when it doesn't.
Right.
Okay. What's the next step? We want to be able to trust ourselves again.
Yeah. So once you're in that, then you can start making decisions for yourself. And so even if a whole crowd of people is doing something different and they're like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it this way? You can feel grounded in yourself and know that you can trust yourself. As you do that more and more, as you start to make decisions based on your intuition more and more, you start to feel stronger. And once you get to this point of self-trust, or I call it radical self-trust, once you get to that point of self-trust, then that's when you really become that force to be reckoned with in the world, right? This is the work is a collective. When we're talking about the humans all together, we're all together on this earth, right? When we're talking about our work in the collective, it's not about us all necessarily uniting together for one belief or one anything. It's more about us feeling connected. We have to feel connected to ourselves first before we can care about what really happens in the collective of humanity. So what we see now is we want the tide to turn. We want more compassion. We want more empathy in the world. We want more of all these things. But in order to do that, we have to reconnect to ourselves and to our intuition and stop grouping up and following, and that type of thing. Because when we each come to the collective with rooted in our self-trust, rooted in our own intuition, then we make good decisions. Then we can see someone else's, we can be empathetic towards someone else's struggle, even if we've not experienced it. We get less individual focus, but we individuate, right? We individuate into the collective.
Yeah.
And that's a very different dynamic.
Yeah, that's so good. So
and then we change the world.
And then we what?
And then we change the world.
And then we change the world. So what about those people that have a difficult time with intuition because they've experienced trauma? A lot of my clients have had dysfunctional upbringings, and they just simply don't trust, even if they were connected, they don't trust it because they think that they're off on some way. So how do you move past that part of it after you've experienced some type of trauma?
Yeah, so I think what we try to do a lot of times is, we think that there's this linear path, that we've got our trauma, and then this is when we get to this point, this is where we'll be healed of our trauma. So we think we're moving toward point B, right? But that's not. We're cycling.
Mm-hmm.
So when you just kind of realize that you don't have to, the goal doesn't have to be point B. The goal can be, okay, this cycle, I do a little more of this. I, take a few more risks. I put myself out there more. Whatever it is that, your trauma has held back in you, you just take steps, and that each cycle, you're just working more and more on that. And it takes it being a game that you win or lose out of it.
That's good.
When you're just cycling,
That's so good.
I get a new start I get a new start.
Yeah, that's so good.
2.5 days. So, that cyclical living has really helped me to stay focused on, just doing small things. So the thing is, you don't have to completely trust your body. If you've had, whether it's medical trauma or any type of bodily trauma in your life, sometimes there's a lack of trust there. You don't have to necessarily trust your body to start hearing it. And so when you start hearing it more and more and listening, then you develop this new relationship that's not centered around your trauma, but also isn't denying your trauma.
Mm-hmm.
You learn to cycle with it. Mm-hmm. And it's a really neat way to work through it.
That's so good. One of the things that you said at the Courageous Moms Retreat that always stands out to me is the concept of experimenting with your intuition. Can you talk to us about that whole experimentation part of it?
Yeah. So, I tell, start with small things. Start with what does my body want to eat today? Mm-hmm. Like, what am I feeling? How many of us eat what we think we should eat, right? Like, I should eat a salad because that's a healthy food. I should eat this because some guru said, or I shouldn't eat this because some guru said that's terrible for us. What does your body want today? Mm-hmm. Start with small decisions. What kind of movement does my body want to do today? Does my body am I feeling like this urge to get out in nature and walk? Or am I feeling like I want to turn on music and dance?
Yeah.
Or am I feeling like I just want to have a good sweat? Like the thought of, instead of planning it as a framework, to ask your body, what do I need today? You know, some days I need a good sweat. Some days I just need to stretch and be gentle.
That's good. That's good. And one of the things that you said is that even when we do that in experimenting, there may be a time or another that we maybe get off and remembering. You want to talk to that part? Because I love listening to that part of this whole experimentation, trusting yourself again.
Yeah, and we do, because we're human, right? Like, there's not this, I would love it if there was. And honestly, when I first started this journey, I thought I will get to this point where I am so spiritually aligned that I will always be consulting my intuition and always moving with my intuition. That's not what happens. There's no arrival point, right? There's just, we're cycling through life. Some cycles are really, really hard. Some cycles are easier. And so during the harder cycles, we can sort of get sometimes bogged down and we don't listen to our body, or we do completely disassociate or disconnect. And that's okay. Hi, Olivia Grace.
Say hi. She came in.
Yes, you did. But yeah, we disconnect for a while. But the beautiful thing is, you just reconnect again.
Sorry, mommy duties. Whew. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. She snuck in.
No, she's adorable. She's gotten so big. But yeah, you know, there are going to be times when we're going to, for instance, you know, when I did the Courageous Moms Retreat, my mother had just passed away.
Yeah, I remember
that time, I was a little disconnected, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. We don't, it's not, again, we're not being graded. It's not like a book report we have to turn in that we have to get an A all the time. Like, there's times when you have to just say, like, I need somebody making the decisions for me. I need to just do what so-and-so says to do right now, because that's just what's easier. That's what I have the bandwidth for. And then you take that time to, like, rest, and then you start getting back into, like, okay, now I feel like I'm ready to connect again.
That's good.
We wax and wane, right?
Yeah. And one of the things that you said is that in those moments when we get off, not being afraid to pivot back to where we need to be. That was amazing to me. Can you talk about the whole pivot piece?
Yeah, well, I think that, again, because we are very performance based when we're watching other people and comparing ourselves to others. And so, you know, okay, so I decide I'm going to, you know, start reading this book and doing the things that it says to do for personal growth. And I'm doing the things and doing the things and doing the things, and it's not really helping me. It's not really doing it for me. But I feel invested now. I feel like I have to just keep up with it. I have to keep going with it because I'm invested. All that time and energy will be wasted if I abandon this now. No, just pivot. Just stop.
Just pivot.
Just pivot and do something else. It's fine. You know, I've made so many pivots in my life, usually big ones, much to the stress of my parents when I was growing up. But, you know, it's fine. It's fine to take.
To me, it takes like the stress and the anxiety. And, you know, like when we get into that stress response, it's usually because there's a threat, right? And a lot of times that threat is, I'm going to fail. But if you recognize that there is no failure, because if you have to take the long way or the short way or the back roads or whichever way you have to go, if you are connected to yourself, if you're connected within, when you get off track, your body, your spirit will tell you off track, reroute, just like a GPS.
Yeah.
As long as you're connected. And so that takes away the fear that I'll get off or I'll go too far, because you're going to just stay constantly being connected with yourself, and you can just pivot, like you said, just pivot back, get back on track. That's no stress, no anxiety needed.
Right.
I love it.
And, you know, that's when we go through hard times in our life, and when we're working through trauma also, we sometimes have to do that. We have to make a hard pivot, either to stop working on something for a while or do it in a different way. And having that frame of mind that says, it's okay. We don't have to be invested in one way, one area, one road, one whatever. And that doesn't mean the beginning of the journey was useless. There was something to be gained in that. If nothing else, you learned how you don't want to do it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But then just, make it. In my life, I've had to do that a lot. And there are times when I suddenly realize, I'll notice that I've been having a sore neck all week long. And I've been so busy. I've just been rubbing this cream right here on it. I've just been doing this. I've been putting a heating pad. And then I stop and I think, wait a minute. I know that when I'm not speaking my truth, when I'm not holding my boundaries and things like that, that's when my neck starts to get really tight and hurt. Probably because I'm clenching my jaw. Because my intuition is saying, say no. Say no. And I'm going, oh, well, and I'm afraid to say it. And so sometimes it takes me a whole week of having things happen in my body. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so that's fine. I heard it when I heard it. I realized it when I realized it. Now I can act on it. It's fine that I didn't realize it all week.
That's so good.
So, yeah.
I love that. And so I love that because there is some integrity that goes along with following your intuition, because sometimes your intuition will see things that you may not connect with yet, and you have to stand on what your intuition tells you as opposed to going with the crowd.
Yeah.
And being okay with that is something that we all, I think, struggle with. If my intuition says, don't go to that party, but everyone's expecting me to go to that party, but my intuition is like, no. Being able to say no to the crowd is something that's major, that it takes a lot of integrity to do it.
And how many times do you hear people say, when they're telling a story of how they ended up somewhere, or how they ended up in a job, or how they ended up in a school or something, and they'll tell you, something just told me. They'll say, all the signs were pointing physically, you should do this, and something just told me not to do that and do this. Yeah. And then later they have a big story about how they would not have ever gotten the opportunities if they hadn't been over here, right? And so, that's not magic.
Yeah.
It's guidance. And intuition is part of our physiology. But it's part spirit too. And so whatever your spiritual leanings are, that intertwines. Absolutely. And it becomes a way that you connect to your intuition more and hear it more. So
would you say that your intuition is made up of your spirituality, your values, the way that you were raised? Would you say that your intuition includes all of those things, or is it literally just that connection to your body?
Intuition for us is that bare place where there's nothing. There's no influence. There's no baggage. It's uncharted land.
That's
right?
Good.
Just a big, wide open field.
That's so good.
That's when there's where the intuition is. It's, intuitive decisions, intuitive leanings come from that place that doesn't necessarily have all the influence with it.
That's good, Meliea. So it is just a knowing.
It's a wild place. It's like a wilderness, It's just...
I absolutely love that, because some of our leanings and our teachings could be totally off of where we are right now in the moment. And if we're leaning on those things instead of just what feels right to us, we can get totally off. That is so amazing. So Faithful Up said, this is right on time for me. Thanks, lady. So you are helping someone today, Meliea. I love that.
Good.
One of the things that I think keeps us stuck in not following our intuition is what you was saying earlier today, and that is not wanting to let go of the experience that we're having, being afraid to let go of it. I remember there was this study that was done a long time ago about people standing in line and how, I've stood in line for 30 minutes. I might as well just stay, right? Because who knows if if I'll get called next or whatever. That was the study. And then there were some people in the line that said, you know what? I've been staying in line for 30 minutes. I'm going to go to the next store because I know that I'll be called next. I'll get what I need more quickly. Why would I just waste this time, right? And I think a part of intuition is being able to check into that and just being okay with the experience that you had. And when the experience is over, I had what I had, and I'm going to leave. Mm-hmm. And be okay with trusting my intuition. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So like that can happen just like in a job. Like let's just say you're in a job and like your body's not feeling good in it. Your spirit's not feeling good in it. You're feeling led towards something else. But at the same time, your influence is like, but the paycheck is steady, but you got benefits, but the thing over here is new. This is what you went to school for. So you don't want to waste your whole like all that comes in, and we stay in something, and we stay in it because it's comfortable, right? It's the known.
Yeah, it's so comfortable,
right?
And it's known. Yes.
Not even if it's dysfunctional, it's dysfunction. It's familiar.
But I know what to expect. I know what to expect in dysfunction.
Mm-hmm. So that intuitive leaning towards something new and to the unknown, once we do that a few times and we respond to it a few times and realize like, oh, this takes me to the right place.
Yeah.
Like I can trust me. I can trust that voice. I can trust that feeling, that message in my body. And then you start moving on it more and more, and you realize that it's not just that you get everything you want. It's not that. It's that you have peace.
Yeah.
That you make decisions and you're like, you know what? I made this decision for me.
Yeah, that's so good. I heard you talk a little bit about self-sabotage in trusting yourself. It kind of goes along with the conversation that we're having. And sometimes when we're talking, we're teaching, we're just kind of using our intuition and we're just kind of talking and flowing in what's in that moment. And you may not even remember anything about what I'm talking about, but you talked about it before. So I want to see if you remember that and if you can talk to that. Self-sabotage in trusting yourself and in walking in your intuition, and how sometimes we may try to self-sabotage and what that really means.
Yeah, so I don't even know if I really believe in self-sabotage, but it's a word to describe what happens to us, right? Like when something's going good or we're waiting and, we react waiting for the other shoe to drop or whatever. And in doing that, we completely upend things, and we call that self-sabotage. But really what that is a fragmented part of us. That's where the trauma comes in, right?
Absolutely.
It's that fragmented part of us. It's that influence that said, last time we did something unknown, we were really scared. Last time we did something unknown, the relationship ended and it was painful or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And so that fragmented part of us that had to survive, right? That created whatever narrative it needed to survive in that moment was
trauma.
And it kind of just, it's over here doing its thing. It's protecting us. It's helping us get through the moment when we don't have the bandwidth to really go deep, right? Mm-hmm. But what we have to do with that when it comes up again, so let's say you fell in love and you got hurt really, really badly. And so as you start meeting someone again, that voice, that fragmented part of yourself is like, wait a minute, we did this last time and we got hurt so bad. Mm-hmm. Then you start doing things in your relationship to try to test that person. Mm-hmm. Like, you start doing little things to see, and set expectations. Like, how are they going to react to this? What will they do? That's sabotaging it. Like,
sabotaging.
but they're inevitably not going to meet your expectation every time. And so then you're going to be like, see, everything ends like this. And, now your fragmented part of you has now like affected this part of you. But what I like to do with those fragmented parts of myself is just thank them. First of all, like, thank you. You got me through a time when I couldn't do it in my own strength, or, my brain and my spirit and my body worked together to get me through. Thank you for doing that. But we're going to do this scared. Yeah. We're going to do this with our knees knocking. We're going to do this terrified. We're just going to do it, and we're going to be okay. And get that fragmented part of you move back in. That fragmented part of you is not trying to sabotage you. It's trying to protect you.
That is our job. That's the job of the brain, is to protect you, to keep you safe, to keep you alive. And so when you feel that desire to protect yourself, say thank, like you said, show gratitude. Say thank you, brain, for trying to help me and try to help me to navigate this situation. But your brain doesn't necessarily live in this moment, in this right now. Your brain lives in the past. It lives in the traumas that you've experienced.
Right.
And so talking back to your brain is so important. Talk to that, like talking back to your brain, because your brain only remembers what happened. It doesn't know what's happening right now.
Right.
Talking back to your brain is so important.
Yeah, and your brain wants to put all your decisions on autopilot. Like,
absolutely, that's
what feels safe. The fewer things we have to really think about and consider, the happier our brain is. It's like, okay, absolutely, I can put this on autopilot. We don't do this. Then that feels easy. But then that means that spirit part of ourselves gets restless, right? Like, it starts saying, I think we want to try this. I think we want to step out there. I think we want to do something different and new. And that's where our conflict between what we say is our head and our heart, which is all one pathway. But, that's where we start feeling that conflict between what we're thinking. I was actually just getting ready. I was thinking tonight that I was going to go live in our postpartum group, because there's been a lot of people talking about sleep disturbances in their kids. And everybody's freaking out, like, my kid's not sleeping. What should I do? And everybody's coming in with these suggestions. Well, you should do this. You should do this. You should do this. And it's like, first of all, get in your body. Are you reacting to what's happening to your kid right now? Or are you reacting to a month ago when you were so tired that you felt disconnected in your relationship? You felt like you were just moving through life in suspended animation. And is your brain going back to that and saying, we can't do that again. We will not survive that again. Yeah. That has nothing to do with your kid. You're
not right in this moment. Nothing at all.
Just like yours. Some nights you sleep good, some nights you don't. But we're reacting to those situations that we're thinking about. We're thinking about what happened last time. We didn't get a lot of sleep and we felt miserable, and we're afraid that's going to happen again. So we get into fight or flight, which means we got to fix this. Got to fix it. Right? So I was going to go live in the group and talk about that a little bit, because that's that same dynamic, right? It's like we're reacting not to what's really happening in the physical in front of us in the present. We're reacting to something that's already happened to us that we're remembering was really hard.
Yeah.
So, and then we can say, I'm in this moment. What happened then won't necessarily happen now. And this won't last forever, just like that didn't last forever. So when we start talking back to our brain and to those fragmented parts of ourselves, it's like, this could be over in 2 nights. But in that self-talk is so important to bringing ourselves back to the now. That's so important. Mm-hmm. That's good.
So we're almost at the end of our conversation. It's been so good. I always say I can stay here and I can talk to you all night, Meliea, all week, and it would not get enough. But what would you say are or what would you add for the person that is listening to us that really wants to develop their intuition and is just struggling? What is something else that you can say to them in this moment?
I say tune into your body. Learn to tune into your body. Start doing simple things. Just like dance to your favorite song and see how it feels. Pay attention to your body sensations. Tune in. Like, do I feel, do I feel excited? Do I feel warm? And start getting used to being in your body again.
So good. So good. Very good. All right. Tell us a little bit about the programs and the service. I know you have a book coming, but tell us about the other services. I know you have like some courses that you teach, a group that you run, I believe. So tell us about what you do and how you can help us to develop in this intuition piece.
Yeah. So I have a course on cyclical living, and you can find that in the link in my bio. Over on my Instagram, and it basically walks through like how to align yourself, how to use the moon to be your like anchor point to make sure you're getting those active times, those rest times, and that type of thing. So I have that out, and then I still do some coaching here and there, but the big thing is now going to be my book. It should be out in the next couple weeks, and I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with the book yet. I mean, I would like to have some type of group that we could walk through the book together. I'm not sure what that's going to look like. This year has been a very healing year for me, a year of grief, and so I'm still like figuring out what am I going to do. And that's okay, right? I can be unknown right now. But pay attention to, I'll be taking pre-orders from my book soon. And
what's the name of the book?
Wild Woman Wisdom.
Wild Woman Wisdom. I absolutely love that title. And is it just about developing intuition?
Yeah, it's about getting in touch with intuition, but also that cyclical living piece where you're honoring your body's need to have both activity and productivity and rest and rejuvenation and restoration.
Who does not need that?
That's how we're built to have that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's
and we find ourselves out of balance and out of whack because we don't have that. So I think that everyone needs to grab that book. And where can they find it when you actually do release it? Will it just be on your social media?
It'll be on my social media. It'll be on my website, melieablack.com.
Which is melieablack.com. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I do most of my stuff here on Instagram. So follow me over here and you'll be in the know. So I'm excited about it.
Very good. I'm excited for you. I'm so excited for you. I will be looking out for that so that I can go grab my copy because it is exciting. Meliea, you are such a great teacher. You are absolutely a great teacher.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Mama
I watch all your little 5-minute things. I learned from you a lot too.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me. It really does. So you can come back anytime if you want to tell us more about when your book drops and any kind of offerings that you have. Please come back and join us. It's a pleasure. I learned so much from you. So I really appreciate it. I really, really do. So everyone, go over to Melia's page and tell us what your page is on social media, on your Instagram. What is it?
Meliea Black.
Meliea Black. Okay, because I can't remember at this moment. All right, so thank you. For everyone that's listening, make sure that you come back next week. We'll be here talking about building a legacy that you love. I have another therapist that's coming on. I think she may be a social worker, actually, but her name is Miss Jackson. She will be here next week talking about building legacy. We'll be talking about generational trauma, generational healing, and all that kind of jazz. And then the last Thursday of this month, we'll be with Latrina Jackson talking about losing weight, keeping it off, We have really opposing views of weight loss. That's why I love having the conversation with her. I'm more inside out. She's more get to the gym and get it together with your eating. So we always go at it, but I think that you can benefit from hearing both sides. And so I'm all grace. She's all willpower and get it together. Okay.
This all sounds really juicy. I'm going to have to put it on my calendar. All this on my calendar.
Very juicy. We had a conversation last year about this time, and we just kind of went at it for about an hour. It was super fun, and people benefit from the conversations, from the different approaches that we have, which is why I like to have conversations, right? So I love it. Make sure that you come back and join us. Thank you guys so much for joining us on tonight's Let's Talk Mom. Thank you, Meliea. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.